I'm sure there's so many of you that know what it's like to be put under the fire of refinement, where you go through refinement in life and you wonder why you got to go through this pain. You know, you've dealt with enough pain in your life and now something else happens and here you got to go through so much more pain. I was talking to a family member last night, my dear sister, and we've become really close over the years, past few years, really, really close. She's my older sister, and we've become really tight in our relationship, which is really good, you know, because a lot of people like me that have come out of Jehovah's Witness religion, you know, a lot of families break up and people never see their siblings or parents again, you know, because they decided to go in a different direction. And my sister is not a Jehovah's Witness anymore. In fact, she left that religion long time before I did. And, you know, and we have different paths in our lives, different directions. Not to say one person's direction was better than the other. It just, you know, we all have our path. And I think the meaning of life, if anybody were to ask me, what is the meaning of life? I would say, well, since you are always going to be the person to spend time with you, no matter what, there you are. Whether you spend it with a spouse or parents or family, friends, whatever it is, no matter what, there you are. The one person you're always guaranteed to be with in your life is you. You got to deal with you in whatever way you deal with you. But, you know, if somebody said, what is the meaning of life to me, asked me that, I would say it's to know who you are. Is to know who you truly, truly are. Not who you're trying to become, who you truly already are. You just don't know it because you have all these ideas about yourself built up into your mind. What you've been saying about yourself for all these years, or what others have instilled into you. What they've been saying about you, whether it's good or bad, whatever you want to label it, it's a false identity is what I call it. A false identity. Like, for instance, I've given an illustration in the past about the caterpillar and the butterfly, how the caterpillar goes through a thing called metamorphosis, which means to change its shape, and it's a very painful process for the caterpillar because its body breaks down, it melts down into liquid as it's in this cocoon. And then what happens is, through enough time and process, this thing becomes a butterfly. But here's the thing, you guys, the caterpillar actually doesn't become a butterfly, even though it seems like it. The caterpillar never was. There's no such thing as a caterpillar. A caterpillar, if it dies as a caterpillar, guess what its DNA reads? Butterfly. And so what do you mean there's no such thing as caterpillars, there's only butterflies? Well, just like I was telling you, you're like a butterfly, if I can compare you to that. You're the butterfly, but you think you're a caterpillar who's waiting to change into the butterfly. But the truth is, what you're really wanting to do, what you're really needing to do, is you need to dissolve the false identity of the caterpillar. And that dissolving is refinement. It's a painful process. It's like gold. Do you know, if you take a piece of gold, it's gold, but then you put it under the fire of refinement and that gold liquefies and all these impurities come to the surface of that gold, and you scoop out these impurities. Well, you're left with gold that's been refined. It was always gold, but it had all these false identities built up into it, and all this gold had to do was be put under a tremendous amount of heat to purify it. And you know, we go through what we call the fire, right? Our God is an all-consuming fire. You know, if you only knew who you truly are, if you only would know who you truly are, you would know that there is no separation between you and the essence of the divine one that we call God. Right? As he is, so are you. If Christ could say, I and my Father are one, and then the scripture says, as he is, as Christ is, so are you in this world, not until you get to heaven someday, but in this world, as he is, so are we in this world, it says. Well, what's that mean? It means, in essence, we already are the butterfly, but we are dissolving ourselves of the false identity of the caterpillar, right? And it's not to hate on the caterpillar anyway. The caterpillar existed. The caterpillar went through some things in life. Some of them don't make it to see themselves as a butterfly because maybe a predator comes around and eats them, or they don't climb to their highest heights, because that's what the caterpillar has to do. It needs to go to its highest high so that it can be protected from predators and go to a place where it can dissolve itself of this false identity. So the truth about the caterpillar, that truth is that it is actually a butterfly. What it always was, the butterfly was always inside the caterpillar. And what is inside of you is the true you. This body is just a temple. It's your house. But the true you is dwelling in there, but you have ideas about yourself, these false identities that you've been building upon yourself and accepting into yourself, and they just need to be dissolved. They just need to be dissolved. I'm talking to my sister this morning, and she's going through a lot of different changes right now in certain things in her life, and it's a painful process. It's painful, right? But as we're talking, I'm trying to encourage her and give her hope. Not that I have the answers to everything, but when you feel like you're alone in whatever you're going through, sometimes it takes somebody on the outside looking in. They might be able to have the foresight for you. Like when I've gone through painful experiences in my life, I've had close friends of mine that were really trying to build me up. Say, you know what? You're going to come out of this. You're going to be stronger from this, and you can't see it because you're kind of stuck in the middle of it. But when you do make it through, what they said to you ends up being true, right? You're going to get through it. You're going to make it through. You just can't give up. And you got to know that you're being refined. It's a process. It's just like gold. You might see a piece of coal. Somebody might hold onto a piece of coal, like Superman in one of these Superman movies I saw years and years ago. He had a piece of coal in his hand, and he wanted to give this woman, Lois Lane, who was the love of his life, he wanted to give her an engagement ring. And so what he did is he took this piece of coal and he used his super strength and squeezed it so tight, he put it under time. He sped up time somehow and pressure. And then when he opened his hand, he just blew all this remaining stuff off that wasn't a diamond. And there he had in his hand a diamond. The diamond was it always was, but it had to go through the process of the coal being removed. Do you understand? It was always a diamond. You just didn't see the reality of it until it went through the process of what it had to go through, right? Time under tension. And that's what Superman did. I see that as an illustration of who we really are. We're going through refinement. We go through these things. Sometimes it's painful. A lot of times it's painful. But it's you know what? It's like a trampoline, you guys. Years ago, when I was attending a church with a good friend of mine, this guy, we became good friends through business. I was his hairstylist. I was giving him haircuts, and we got to talking, and we became good friends over time. And he's somebody that's done so much for me. I can't thank him enough. He's always been there for me, and we're still really close. And one day when I was at this church, he invited me to start attending, and I became a big part of it. The pastor really liked me, and I would go up and give sermons, if he was traveling or something, And then I became part of what they call the worship team, where I was one of the singers, so I sang on the worship team, gave sermons. And one day, it might have, today's Easter, by the way. And it's funny, I think it was on Easter when this happened. I think it was an Easter Sunday, because we all went to church, and there was a bunch of people that attended that Sunday. So I think it was Easter Sunday. A bunch of people. I'm kind of the new guy still. I'm going to open my windows so I can get some fresh air in here. Some of you don't like that I make car videos. But hey, this is my place where I have alone time and I can talk to you guys freely. In my home, got a couple roommates who I love them dearly. But, our rooms are so close to each other, and, I'm not alone. So this is a good place to speak to you guys, But anyway, so I'm going to this church, and my friend invites me to, and then I become part of the worship team, and I give sermons and all that kind of stuff. And I talk to people just like I'm doing with you guys here, and sharing some stuff from scripture and all that. And this particular day before the service, really, as it was starting, the pastor invited me to come stand in front of the audience. I'm like, okay, so Michael, come on up here. So I go up there, and he's like, did you know I was going to call you up today? I said, no. Did we plan anything previous to this? I said, no. He says, so I'm catching you off guard? And I'm like, yeah. And he says, okay, what I want you to do is I want you to face the front and turn your back toward the audience so that you don't see anybody behind you. And I'm like, okay. So I did. I turned around, faced the front, and all the audience was behind me. And he says, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand next to somebody and place my hand on their shoulder. And I don't want you to look, but I want you to prophesy over this person. And whatever comes to you, just share it. And I'm like, okay. And I never did this before, but I'm like, okay. So I'm thinking, empty my thoughts. Just empty my mind. Don't start trying to think of something cool to say, positive things. I just emptied my mind. And when the pastor goes back there and he says, and he's got the microphone, he says, okay, Michael, prophesy. And I think I had a microphone too. So I said, well, I see somebody in a tremendous amount of pain. And I said, so much pain that they've been contemplating, the S word, ending it all. I'll let you finish the rest, because I don't think we're really supposed to say that word on YouTube. Suicide, I think it's spelled. So I said that, and you think that you're only, if you're prophesying over somebody, you're supposed to say nice things, like I see riches in your future, I see abundance, I was just speaking whatever was coming to me, you guys. So I'm talking about how this person feels like they're just going to end it soon, and they feel like, as far as God goes in their life, they feel like they're an arrow, and God is the guy with the bow in his hands. And what he's doing is he's pulling them backward and pulling them backward. No matter how far ahead this person's trying to go in life, he feels like he's just being pulled backward, just like a man that's holding a bow and pulling back the arrow. I'm pulling it back. But I said, what I'm seeing is you feel like you're being dragged backward, but actually what is going on is God's got a plan for you. Right? And it's not God outside of you. It's God inside of you. You are one with him, you guys. Do you understand that? I and my Father are one. You are one in essence. You have the Spirit of God himself. That is your spirit in you. There's no separating your DNA and the DNA of God, if I can say DNA without offending people. Just using it as an illustration. So anyway, I'm seeing this vision of this guy being pulled backward like an arrow, and you got to pull that arrow. If you want to launch it high and far, you got to aim high and pull back with all your strength and release that thing to launch it at higher and further than it's ever gone. And I said, you are being prepared for this to happen in your life. And I said, God is going to change your life, and it's going to happen soon. Anyway, whatever else I said, but the pastor has me turn around, and this dude is crying, man. He's got tears coming out of his eyes. And after the service, him and his father, who's a good friend of mine, I was telling you, this guy that's a good friend of mine that, invited me to go to his church. Well, it was his son whom I had never met. I had never met his son before, and he never said anything about his son to me going through depression and all this stuff. So I had no clue, but it just so happened to be my good friend's son. And I had prophesied over his son, and so the, family came up and hugged me afterward. And do you know, it was just in a short amount of time, this son of his meets the woman of his dreams. They get married. They're neighbors of mine. They buy a home in this area together. And it's just been so awesome. It's been so awesome to see this. And this was years ago. This was like 2015 or 16 when this happened. Probably 2016. And what are we in now? 2025? So much has changed since then. But, as my sister and I were talking this morning, we talked last night on the phone for a really long time and had a great conversation. And like I said, she's going through some stuff. But I was kind of like, as I'm talking to her, I'm like, life is like a trampoline. I said, when you're on a trampoline, you bounce on this thing. And if you want to go high up in the air, you got to go way low on the trampoline. You got to go to the trampoline's lowest lows to be able to go up to your highest highs. The higher you want to go, the lower you got to go, right? And I'm like, that's just how life is. You're in your valley, you're at your lowest lows, but you are about to soar high. Allow yourself to go through this process, because this process is about getting to know who you truly are. Who you truly are, you guys. You might think about, what is the purpose of life? What is the meaning of life? Oh, the meaning of life is to this and this and that. But, like when my sister asked me, what is the meaning of life to you? Or when I said to her, if I were to share what the meaning of life is, I think that's how it came up. I think I told my sister, if I were to share you the meaning of life for me, I said, the meaning of life for me is to know who I truly am. To really know who I truly am so I can walk it out. It's like that thing I say to you guys all the time on my videos. Know who you are, discover what you've been given, and learn to use it and use it well. And that is my journey. That is my goal, to dissolve myself of everything that is not the truth. Things I've held on and cherished so dearly, or even all the painful stuff that I've attached myself that said, well, this is the truth about me. That is the truth about me. No, it's not. It's all a false identity, you guys. It's a false identity. It's like Superman I was talking about earlier. Do you know, Superman was always Superman. He wasn't Clark Kent that became Superman. He was born Superman, and he took on an identity called Clark Kent. Do you understand? You were born in Christ. But you took on a false identity that said you got to get into Christ. You got to become a Christed one. You have to this, you have to that. You got to do all these works to get there someday, right? But the truth is, in essence, you and your Father are one. You just didn't know it yet. You didn't know it. You're not trying to become something that you aren't. You are trying to dissolve yourself of what you aren't, so the true you will be the only one that's left standing there. Do you understand that? Do you understand it, you guys? So I hope this has been a blessing to you. I know it's Easter Sunday. He is risen, but are you risen with him, in him? Has your old identity been buried? Has it been buried? This old identity, this old belief about yourself, and have you risen into who you truly, truly are, who you truly always have been? I'll tell you, maybe Christ died. Yeah, Scripture says that. But do you know, in essence, the God in him never died? You can't kill God. God cannot die, and he and his Father are one. So in essence, his true essence, which is spirit, never died at all. That's us. The true you will never die, but it's this false identity that we have taken on through others, through ourselves, whatever. This false identity that we're holding on to, that's what needs to die so that the true you can rise up and live out who you truly are, who you were always meant to be. And that's my Easter Sunday sermon for you. I hope this has blessed you. Hey, sister, if you're watching this, my dear, dear sister, Jeanette, I love you so much. I thank you for the conversations we've been having lately. I love you so much, sister, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of the journey that you've been on, and just the character that is developing, and all this stuff that's just being removed, just like dross. That's what they call the stuff that's removed from the gold. It's always been gold, but it's the dross that's being removed. Right? We're just removing the dross. I'm so proud of you. So proud to call you my sister. So proud to be your brother. I love you so much. And you guys, I love you all as well. Thanks for watching. I wish you a happy Resurrection Sunday. God bless you all. And we'll see you next time. And by the way, if you have a short story, if you have a story that you would like to share with me, and whether you want me to just share it with me alone, or even if you'd like to share it with the audience, you can always write into me. Email me at Michael Lehre. Michael, M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Lehre is L-E-H-R-E. M-I-C-H-A-E-L, Lehre at yahoo.com. You guys' stories that you've been sharing have been encouraging many people out there that you might not even be aware of what your testimony has been doing for others and building them up. And whatever story you got to share, write in with me, share it. If you want me to mention your name, say so. If you don't want me to mention your name, I'll keep it private. All right? So God bless you all. Love you all. Have a great one. We'll see you next time.